Alright guys, hey, welcome to the video, and here today I'm going to show you how to dump your NOR or NAND using the latest PS3 exploit, which as of right now is 2.0.1. Now I need to apologize up front for two things. Number one, I know the length of this video is super long, but I don't plan on doing another one of these for PS3. Normally these exploits work pretty much the same way every time. You just have to use the updated files. So I figure I make this one very thorough so it covers a lot of things. The whole entire process, the tutorial, once you do it a couple of times, you'll see it's very quick. And some people might say, oh, you could have done this in 5 minutes. No, because there are a lot of people who are still new to this, and there's so many different directions you can go. Han, CFW, how should your setup be? Is this even for you? What if I don't have a PC? What if, I don't have a way to check the dumps and all of this stuff? So I mean, there's a lot to cover. Everybody's goal is different. People's setup is different. And so, yeah, there's a lot that I need to cover in terms of just general guidelines, tips, hints, and things like that to try to cover as many people as possible, including the ones who are new. So there's a lot of information in this video. That's why it went on so long. The other one is, I'm sorry it didn't come out sooner. I just wasn't feeling all that hot. So I was out of commission for maybe about a week or so, and that of course set me back, but here we are. So lots of housekeeping to get out of the way. Let's go ahead and kick it off with that first. All right guys, so we're going to start off the housekeeping stuff by me letting you know that your PS3 right now at this moment should have HFW 4.84 installed. This is the hybrid firmware that's relatively new. This is not custom firmware. This is called hybrid firmware because when you install it onto your PS3, it will allow you to either go the way of installing custom firmware if the PS3 it's installed on is a jailbreakable model. But if you have this HFW installed on a non-jailbreakable PS3, it is also flexible enough where it will then allow you to install the Han exploit. So that's why it's called hybrid firmware. I talk about this a little bit in this video I did. I'll put a link in the description. Also in this video at the 340 mark, I show you how to determine whether your PS3 is a jailbreakable model or not. So follow the instructions in this video because I'm not going to cover it here. And you will need a FAT32 formatted USB device and the minimum version checker pup file, but it's very easy to do. I cover it here. This hybrid firmware is compatible with all PS3s, so you can install it there. And the proper procedure is you should install 484 OFW first, which is 484 official firmware. Once that's done installing, then install the HFW 484 firmware twice. So it's going to require a total of 3 installs, at least for right now, for the purpose of this video. I'm not going to cover how to do that. You should already know how to install these firmwares. There's 1,000,001 tutorials that show how to do that. It's super easy. Okay, the next thing is that I'm going to be showing you how to run this dump exploit either by hosting the files yourself from a device like a PC or something else, or where you can have the PS3 just connected to the internet and you can run this exploit dump straight from your browser by connecting to the PS3 exploit site like I'm showing you here, and you can run it from there. Now in either case scenario, you will need a USB storage device so you can transfer the file to the USB storage. If you don't want to host the files on a PC, that's fine. In this video here, I show you how to pretty much host any WebKit for PS3, PS4, or whatever it is from, other devices, whether it's a phone or the Raspberry Pi or something like that. I just make some recommendations or whatever, so you can watch that video, because it is highly recommended that you run the files yourself from a device that's connected to the same network as your PS3. But if for whatever reason you don't want to do it that way and you just want to, have your PS3 connected online, then you can do it that way too. That's fine. But for best performance and best results, it's recommended you host the files yourself. The other thing is, if you don't have a way to check the dumped file, because you need a PC for that. You should still do this anyway, because if you brick when you go to install custom firmware, or after you've installed custom firmware, whatever, and you end up bricking, or when you run Han or whatever, the only way to recuperate from a brick is you have to have the clean BIOS of that specific PS3. You have to have them handy, and then they have to get flashed using hardware like the E3 flasher in order to be able to save the PS3. If you don't have that, then the system is lost. If you don't have a way to do it, if you have the clean BIOS, you can still maybe take your PS3 to a local shop or somebody you know, or have it sent in or something to try and recuperate it. But without the BIOS, there's nothing you can do, so you should still do it anyway. You can transfer those BIOS once you've put them on a USB. You can transfer it to that file to your phone, or however other means to get it, maybe to a friend, and have them check it, and they can tell you whether it's good or not. The only thing that's a security issue on those BIOS files really is just your console ID, which they'll see in like 2 seconds. Aside from that, there's no credit card information. Your PSN login is not there. Your login to your home network, that's not there. So really the only thing that might be a little bit iffy is just the console ID. And by the way, if you're already jailbroken and you have custom firmware installed, there's no need to do what we're doing here today, at least not in this method. Right here, I have this video that shows you how to dump or extract your BIOS using the rebug toolbox. So if you already have custom firmware installed, going through the rebug toolbox to dump your BIOS is so much easier, quicker, and just more beneficial. So do it that way. There's no reason to do it this way here that we're showing and going through all this extra stuff. It's completely unnecessary. So if you have custom firmware installed, that's the route you want to go. I'll put a link in the description to this video. All right, and the last couple of bits of information here. First is that even though there's not much of a risk that you'll brick here doing this, NOR NAND dump, there's still a small risk involved. Where the risk gets higher is when you start flashing the PS3, getting it ready for custom firmware, or when you try installing the custom firmware or stuff you do with it afterwards. I think there is some risk when you start using the Han stuff that you could brick the system too. But here for dumping the NOR NAND, there really is hardly any risk, but you still need to proceed with caution. Do you need to dump the BIOS, your NOR or your NAND, in order to proceed with custom firmware or Han? No, you do not. But it is 100% recommended that you do, even if you don't have a way to check them. And lastly, I'm not going to do the checking of the dump here in this video, although I'm going to make a video that shows you how to check them using 2 different methods, Python and the PS3 dump checker. That will be in a separate video, but I'm going to release that video the same day as this one. I want to keep both of them separate because it's just easier to find the 2 things. If they're separated, it's easier to index them and find them and search for them that way. Also, custom firmware people do not need to go through this portion here, the dumping of the NOR or NAND. They just need the tutorial on how to check the files. So I think it's best to keep them separated. Anyway, with all of that finally out of the way, let's go ahead and let's start downloading the files we're going to need in order to proceed with the dumping of the NOR and NAND exploit. Okay, now first stop will bring us here to where the 484 flash writer and flash dumpers are located. You can scroll all the way down to the bottom where the dumpers section is, and there you'll see the latest version, whatever it is. As of right now, it's version 2.0.1. Come down to where the release zip file is, click on it and download it. Make sure you extract the folder that's in there to your desktop, and we'll be revisiting that here in just a minute. Then, since I'm using my PC, and if you are going to use your PC, I recommend a couple of different server programs or apps or whatever. One is for Chrome. If you're using a Chrome browser, it's an extension for Chrome, and it's actually an extension app for Chrome. You can see it's very highly rated, and it's my go-to one, the one I use like 99% of the time for PS4, PS3, and whatever. Over here, if you don't have it installed, it'll say added or install or whatever, so you'll click on that. And again, it's my favorite one, and it's the one I go to. There's another one here, which is its own standalone program. It doesn't install anything. It's very small, very light, and free. It's Miniweb HTTP server. And for me, it works all the time. Although I rarely use it because I like the Chrome one. You can use this one too if you like. or just use both, or you can use any. There is a bunch of them out there. Just use whatever you want. Now, if you do happen to go with the server for Chrome one, once it's installed, it'll be located in your apps section of Chrome. So up here, although you can't see it on mine, if you have the bookmark bar active, there's a little square over here that'll say apps on all the way to the left. You'll click on it and it'll bring you here. Or you could just type this into the URL bar of your Chrome browser, Chrome://apps, and that will also bring up this screen here, and you can see it's right there. It's like this goofy little icon, and that's what launches it, and that's what we'll be using. So we'll come back to that in a minute. So if you decide that you want to go with Miniweb and you or you just want to try it out as well, when you download it, I would strongly recommend you make a folder on your desktop like I did here. Call it Miniweb. Really, you could call it whatever you want, but just call it Miniweb. And you can take those downloaded files and stick them here in the folder. Once you've done that, you can delete all the files except htdocs folder and the miniweb.exe file. You can delete everything else that comes with it. Then in the htdocs folder, delete everything that's in there except the default.css file and the favicon.ico file. Everything else can go. Okay, so now here at your desktop, I would suggest, although you don't have to, that you rename that folder that you extracted from the zip file, the folder containing all the dumper files, to something shorter. I renamed mine to PS3 exploit version 2.0.1 dumper files, but you can rename it to anything you want. I would suggest you keep it, short and sweet. Again, you don't have to, but it's a little bit tidier, and it's just not as long or whatever, and it might be easier for you to find if you index to something that's a little bit more preferable to you. Anyway, if you plan on using or trying out Miniweb, you can open up that folder that we were talking about earlier, go into htdocs, and then open up the folder containing all those dumper files, and you're going to make sure you copy all the files over into that htdocs one. You want to leave the original ones here in case you mess up or something. They'll be easy to track down. Let's go ahead and paste them into the htdocs folder. There we go. Now we'll back out and we're going to launch the Miniweb exe as admin. And there we go. Now you get this little window popping up. Make a note of this host IP address that you get here. This is an IP address that's given within your own home network. So a lot of people a lot of times get the same numbers. So this is not your IP address, to your actual router or whatever. So this IP address here doesn't need to be covered up. Anyway, make sure you make a note of everything here, including the port, which in this case it's 8000. Now I'm not going to be using this, but I'm going to be using the Chrome server instead. If you are using that, go ahead and launch it. When you do turn it off here, click on choose folder, and then you're going to point it to your exploit folder here that has all the dumper files. Now I've already done that, but I'll do it again. Let's go to desktop. Let's go to PS3 exploit 20.1 dumper files right there. Don't go into the folder, just highlight the folder that contains all the dumper files and hit select folder. Once you've done that, make sure everything here matches. So the first, third, and sixth boxes should be check marked, and then go to advanced settings, and these boxes should all be unchecked except the one that says plain static files view. That one should be checked, and then that's it. Once you've done that, turn it back on and you will get your IP. Obviously the home one is 127. That's not the one we'll be using, but it'll be the other longer one that has the port and everything else. That's the number we'll be entering into the PS3 browser. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my PS3 and bring it up here on the screen so we can continue. Okay, so here we are at the PS3. Make sure whatever server that you're using is turned on and you have that server IP address number that it gave you ready. We're going to go into the PS3's browser. And again, you should have 484HFW installed. Now, when you open up your browser, go ahead and press start. We're going to delete this with square, and then you're going to start typing in that number right here, that IP address that either Miniweb gave you or whatever server it is you're using. Now, I've already typed this number that's over here onto my PS3. So I'm just going to select it. Okay, and as you can see here in a second, there's the number and it matches the one over here to my server. We're going to go ahead and then press start. If you're using Miniweb, just type the Miniweb IP server number that it gave you. Now you'll see here you have a few choices. Let me bring up my this right here because you can see a little bit better on the browser of the PC. So we are not concerned with absolutely anything here except the index.nor.html file or the index.nan HTML. If you do not know which one you have, all PS3 Super Slims are NOR. All PS3 Slims are NOR. Only some PS3 FATs are NAND. I will put a link in the description to a chart that will show you some of the serial numbers and stuff so you can determine if you have a PS3 FAT, whether it's NOR or NAND. So pick one of those two. Ignore everything else, even the ones that have HDD. We're not going to do those. So in this case, mine is a Slim. I will be using NOR. So right here, you can see on the PS3, I'm going to select index.nor.html. Make sure the little finger is right on it there. You're going to get this warning popping up. Again, make sure you're on 484 HFW. Now, I am not. I no longer have any extra PS3s because I stopped selling them. The demand for them just isn't there anymore, guys. So I only have my personal one, which is on 484 rebug. I have everything set perfectly, so I do not have HFW installed, but I will still walk you through the motions. You should have HFW installed before you proceed. I already covered that at the beginning of the video, so at this point hit OK. Okay, now you can see mine here kind of is missing a chunk of stuff. That's because this is not 484 HFW, so it's not loading up properly. Don't worry about it. If you're on 484 HFW, yours will look fine. Now, right here, what we're going to do is we are going to press triangle. We're going to go to Tools. You're going to pick Home Page, and you're going to hit Use Current, and then make sure you select OK. Then we're going to hit triangle again. We're going to go back to Tools, and we are going to delete cookies. We're going to delete search history, and we're going to wipe our cache. So let's start with the cookies. It doesn't really matter what order you do them in. Then we're going to hit delete search history. And then we are going to wipe the cache by deleting the cache. And once you've done that, exit out of the browser by hitting circle. Select yes. We'll be brought back to the XMB, wait a few seconds, and then go back into the browser. When you go back into the browser, it'll bring you to the warning or attention screen because they want you to make sure you have HFW 484 installed. Hit OK, and now you'll be brought back here. Once you're brought back here, make sure that you have a USB FAT32 formatted storage hooked up to one of your USB ports. I use the one that's all the way to the right. If you use that one, that number is USB 000. Make sure that box is checkmarked. If it's on the left one, then it's going to be USB 001. Make sure that box is checkmarked. I also suggest that nothing else be plugged in to your USB ports. Okay, one other thing before I forget, this should work on any PS3 except Super Slim models that are 4000 series ending in A. So if it's a 4000 series Super Slim that ends in B, C, D, QRSZ, whatever, that's fine. As long as it's not a Super Slim that ends in A. Also, this tells you that it works for kind of all of these deals here, but in reality, use it only for HFW 484 as it's recommended by the developers, because I've tried it like on rebug 484 kex, which is what I'm in right now, which meets this criteria, and it does not work. So anyway, just keep that in mind. That's why I told you HFW 484 only. Okay, with all that set up, at this point you can go ahead and hit initialize exploitation, which we'll do, and sometimes you'll immediately get a success prompt, or you'll get a progress percentage prompt like this. That's fine, just let it do its thing until it finishes. And there we go, we have success. You can see how quick that was. Once you get this success, then you'll go ahead to dump 16 megabyte NOR flash to USB, or yours might say NAND. Go ahead and select that. And it can take anywhere from like 30 seconds to a couple of minutes. Just give it time. If you keep getting errors or whatever, again, make sure that you installed 484 OFW first and then HFW 484 2 times. And you might want to try a different USB. But you should get a success. And when you do, at that point, you'll have your dump. It'll be called dump.hex. You can then watch my next video and I'll show you 2 different ways to check the dump.hex file to ensure that it's clean. Okay, and at this point, this is where you would go ahead. If you have a jailbreakable PS3, you would then right now go ahead and use the Flash Writer version 2.0.1 to flash the PS3. Then after that, you would follow the steps without turning off the system. Follow these same steps again. You're going to dump your NOR NAND again, check it again, and then once you've checked it and make sure it's good again, then you would go ahead and turn off your system, turn it back on, and proceed with installing custom firmware. If at this point you have a non-jailbreakable PS3, then from here you would go ahead and follow the process to install Han or to run Han. Either way, whether you're going to flash it or go the route of Han, before you proceed to the next step, I strongly recommend that you go back to Tools right now, go to Home Page, select Use Blank, then you're going to hit OK. Then after that, you're going to do those 3 things again. You're going to delete the cookies, the search history, and the cache. And then once you've done that, then you can go ahead and run the next process, whatever it is, whether it's using the Flash Writer or running Han or whatever the case may be. Okay, now for those of you who are not self-hosting the files and you want to do this online, then make sure your PS3 is connected to the internet. And what you would do is when you, at the point in the video where you press the start button to enter the IP address that the server gave you, of whatever server app you're using, instead of typing the IP address there, what you would type is ps3exploit.com, just like it is right here. When you do that in your PS3's browser and you hit start, then you'll be brought to this page. When you are on this page, you'll go to Flash Dumper, and I'm showing you this on the PC because it's just easier to see. You'll go to Flash Dumper, then you'll go to Dump Flash to USB and pick NAND or NOR depending on which PS3 you have. We talked about that earlier. I have a NOR, so I picked NOR. And then when you do that, you're brought to this page, the same page we were at before. From this point on, everything you do is exactly the same. You'll go press triangle, go to the home page setting, click on use current page as the home page. Make sure you click OK. Then you'll select triangle again and you will delete the cookies, wipe the cache, and delete the search history. You'll back out of the browser, go back into it, and then all the steps will remain the same. And then from that point on, you'll do everything that I mentioned earlier. And that's pretty much it, guys. Sorry the video was so long, but I wanted it to be super detailed for everybody, including those who are new, to just learn and understand how all this works. The next video will be how to check your dump that you've done here using 2 different methods. And then after that, I'll show you how to actually flash the PS3 for those who have a jailbreakable system. As always, thanks for watching. You know I greatly appreciate it. Make sure you thumbs up and subscribe because it helps the channel and it keeps me motivated to keep bringing you stuff like this. So take care, guys, and we will see you on the next one.